So my name is Peter Renton and I am the founder of Lend Academy and the co-founder of the LendIt conference. I have been investing in marketplace lending for 6.5 years now, and I've been writing about this space for about 5 years now. And we've been running the LendIt conference. We've had 3 conferences in the US. Our 4th one is coming up here in April of 2016 in San Francisco, and we produce the largest events in marketplace lending. We had 2,500 in New York. We'll have probably 4,000 people in San Francisco, and we bring all of the constituent people together in one place for 2.5 days of education, networking, that kind of thing. So what keeps me up at night? A couple of things. So one, I think if there is major fraud at one of the more established platforms, that will be an unmitigated disaster in this industry. Now, I think we're far enough along that it won't kill the industry, but it would dramatically reduce its growth, and there would be more regulation coming in from Washington, reactionary, which is never good. And I think that's something that it would certainly stunt the growth that we have been experiencing. So that's one thing, and related to that, the only other thing that really keeps me up at night is the Washington coming in and making it more difficult for these platforms to operate. Right now, there is people think this industry is unregulated. It's simply not true. It's actually quite heavily regulated, but there isn't sort of one branch of government or one department of government that is overseeing the whole thing. Like in the UK, they have that. The FCA in the UK oversees this industry. In the US, we have the SEC on the investor side, we have the CFPB on the borrower side, and you've got a myriad of different laws and regulations that apply across the board. So I think that if the government could make it more difficult for these companies to operate by coming down with some heavy-handed regulation, I think that's something that is a worry, and certainly they haven't shown any indication of doing so yet, but that's going to be a possibility. So the future, I think, is very rosy from my perspective. I feel like that lending has changed forever, and we're not going back to the way it was done in the 20th century. We have a much more efficient model now. It's no longer about going to your local branch, sitting down with a bank officer and going through your tax returns, your bank statements, all this kind of myriad of paperwork you just got to gather. We don't have to do that anymore. There's a much more efficient way of obtaining financing. So I see that this industry is going to keep growing. It's going to, basically all loans, the way I see it, all loans under $500,000 are going to eventually find their way to marketplace lending, and this is going to be a massive industry. Banks will still be around. Banks will do the larger loans, and eventually maybe marketplace lending might even get into some of that territory. But for the smaller loans, it's a much more efficient way of doing things, and banks will be involved on the funding side with some of that, and there'll also be just regular everyday investors involved in. It's going to be a multi-billion dollar, I would even say eventually a multi-trillion-dollar industry where there's small businesses, consumers, students are all going to find themselves being able to get financed through marketplace lending. Let's just take the small business owner for an example. I mean, small businesses, people say it again and again and again, they have a difficult time getting access to credit, and banks don't like to lend small loans, which is typically what a small business wants. So there's platforms out there where you can apply for a loan so quickly, and you can connect things online. Like Cabbage is an example that does a phenomenal job for small business. You can get your loan literally within minutes, and that simply was considered impossible 5 years ago, and today it's happening every single day. So from the small business, it's more efficient, it's a quicker process to actually apply for the loan, and a quicker process to actually get your money. So that's just a huge advantage. From the consumers often, they're not usually in a hurry like a small business can be sometimes. So the main advantage from a small business perspective, the main advantage from a consumer's perspective is it's a lower rate. You are going to get a lower rate, typically 4, 5, 6% lower than you would get on a credit card, particularly with the Card Act that came into being a few years ago. That increased credit card rates significantly. So the marketplace lenders can come in, undercut that rate. It's all risk-based pricing, and consumers are able to get they're able to borrow money at a cheaper rate. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the marketplace lenders are getting access to credit bureau data to help in their underwriting, so they most certainly should provide that the loan repayment history, the loan activity for all of their borrowers should go back to the credit bureaus. So, for a start, there is over 550 platforms worldwide, outside of China, worldwide now in this online lending, marketplace lending space. It's just exploded. And I think, I could talk for a long time about China. China, there is another example of something you wouldn't know. The largest platform in China, in 1 month, and this is the truth, in 1 month, they added 1 million retail investors onto their platform. They have now in excess of 10 million. This is Lufax or lu.com. They're the largest platform in China, or one of the largest, and they have China is all retail investor focused, and it is exploding in China at a much greater. In fact, there's more peer-to-peer lending, marketplace lending, loan volume in China than the rest of the world put together, and it's growing. That gap is growing.